Hello, hello, hello. Here we are again for episode 7 of the third chapter, Women Living Fully, as I remove the hair from my mouth. Hope you're doing well. Come on in, have a seat, pull up a chair, grab something cool. It's really warm where I am right now. It's super warm, like the middle of summer. It's beautiful. And I love this series called the third chapter, Women Living Fully. I love that we have a voice to share how we're navigating through our third chapter. And for me, the third chapter is women 55 plus. And in this series, we're talking about the challenges we encounter, the tools we're using to navigate, as well as the gifts and the lessons we're learning in this third chapter. And boy, I'm learning that we have a lot to say. And my guest today is Swan, and I think you'll agree with me. She's got a great little story going. It may inspire you, and that's really the point of this, is to inspire each other to want to explore how we can have a fresh voice in our third chapter, how we can try new things, be more courageous, not be so put in the box or put in the corner. Nobody puts anybody in the corner. That's just all in our mind. So my guest today will have a lot to say about what she's learning in what she calls her adult gap year. Now, just a little sidebar before I invite in Swan. I'm doing a retreat in Stittsville this coming Saturday. It's called the Course in Happiness Reboot Retreat. It's for women. It's a very small group, and unfortunately, someone had a family tragedy, and they can't make it, and so I have a spot available. If that resonates and you would like to, just private message me. I'll send you the information and see if it's something that's for you, because it may be for somebody or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to find Anne. Here she is. Mail. I think that's really cool how things work now. Remember how you used to meet people through the newspaper? Well, I read about Anne's story, and I thought it was so fascinating what she was doing that I thought this would make a great conversation. And there she is. Hi, Anne. Nice
Hi.
to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly. What about you? Me? Good? We're all good?
All good. Yeah, all good.
Isn't technology just the best?
When it
When
works.
it works. I see you, Jennifer Valentine. Hi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And you have such a great story going, and it's very inspiring, I think, for us women at a certain age. We say women of a certain age, but women 55 plus, I find we are just in the best leadership roles in showing people how to do it in this third chapter. We're not talking about retirement. We need a new word for this thing. It's not that, because we're not done. We have so much to offer. And I know that you had a very successful career in pharmaceuticals for a number of years until you retired. I believe it was last year, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So you decided to take what you're calling an adult gap year to figure this thing out, to see whether you want to go back into full-time work or some kind of part-time thing, or whether you just want to continue on with the amazing adventure that you've been shaping over this year. So let's start by talking about where you're at, because you took the adult gap year, you've done some travel.
Yep.
Can you fill us in on what's been happening with you?
Yeah, so maybe it may be better to go back a tiny bit. So a year ago, almost 2 years ago, I could see the project that I was working on at work was coming to an end. And we had a lot of management changes going on at work as well. And I was working in a global role. So I could see the end of my job coming. And I was being offered other jobs in the organization. There were other jobs in the community. I'm also approaching my 60th birthday this year. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Actually, I feel quite privileged to be making 60, and we could talk about that too. But, all these things sort of conspired in my head, and I wasn't ready to retire. Retire to me has ugly connotations around it. It feels like an old word, right? For many people, it's an event they wait for and they can't wait and they're just ready to relax. For other people, it feels like you're being put out to pasture. And I talked to lots of people who were lonely or untethered or trying to figure out what it meant. And so I was like, I reject retirement. I'm not sure if I'm done working yet, but I know I'm done this job, and I know I'm done working in a corporate environment where I'm trying to build a career, climb a ladder. I'm not interested in any of those things anymore. And so I kept coming, and I really had angst about it. I'm going to say for 6 months or a year, it really stirred in my head a lot. And I kept coming back to this idea that, I feel like you do when you finish high school. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't, maybe I got into college. I don't know where I'm going to live, who I'm going to live with. I signed up for economics. I hated it. I ended up in psych, a strong interest in business, and I worked in sciences. Like I just felt like you have all that angst and all your friends' parents. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Can you afford to move out? Can you afford to live alone? And I had that exact same sense. I'm hitting 60. I'm getting all these questions. Are you going to retire? What are you going to do? Do you have hobbies? Do you have the money? Is your family ready for it? And I thought, I don't know. I can't answer any of those questions. So I'm taking a very deliberate and intentional gap year. And in that year, I have booked travel in April and travel in September because both of those were things I wanted to do. But I intentionally set it so I can't take another job. I can't sign up for any volunteer work. I can't really make any serious commitments. I'm taking a year off to experiment, to play, to try different things, to say yes to everything, to get some stuff off my bucket list, to get my life organized. So I am taking a gap year. It's almost the end of May, so I'm 5 full months into it. It's been an amazing learning journey so far. And I'm curious to see where the rest of the year goes. And I'm just doing my very best to just stay open and, hope I have a game plan by the end of the year. Maybe it'll be a 2-year gap. I don't know. But I think I'm moving closer to a bit of a game plan.
I think what you just described is possibly one of the biggest challenges that we women have in our third chapter. And that is, what now? Who am I without this? Who do I become now? How do I become that? Where am I going? We have so much language especially in North American society, around that word retirement. And it does imply done. And I think this generation, I'm 72, you're pushing 60 now. And I think your generation, more than even the one I'm in, are like, no, excusez-moi, we are not finished. Women are starting businesses in their 50s and 60s and 70s. Exactly. One of my heroes and mentors, Louise Hay, started Hay House Publishing, a global publishing company, at 60 years old. So we are anything but done. If we are tired from all the work we had to do, we definitely need a pause. And I celebrate that. I celebrate what you're doing, because you're giving yourself grace and an opportunity to really explore, do I want to continue on that stream, or do I go over here? Because all of your skills are transferable. That's the other cool piece. You have so many more skills than you even know, right?
It's so true. And I also am very mindful of not stepping out of the fire and into the frying pan, as it were. There are other jobs out there, but giving myself this space is making it more clear for me about what I do like and what I don't like. And what I find, there are more opportunities that come that are clearly no's to me than necessarily the ones that are yeses. And, I had a conversation about this with somebody recently who said, yes, I'll plan on taking 3 months. And I have to tell you from experience so far, my own experience, it took me 3 months to quit looking for texts, emails, and chat invites from all my former work colleagues. So I don't think 3 months is enough. For 10 solid weeks, I woke up with a bit of a hole in my heart thinking, nobody cares anymore. All that urgency. And, when you're, when you're fortunate enough, or at any level, when you're busy in work, and I work a global job, I wake up to a whole list of emails. I'm a bit of a change and chaos junkie. I like that. That doesn't stress me out. Losing it stressed me out. So, it takes a while to decompress from that working life. And then, you get to try on a little bit of leisure. You need to think about your money. You need to think about what you can or can't do. And then there's the pursuit of what you enjoy. But what guardrails do you put up now that I didn't have before? I don't want to work a 40-hour work week, let alone a 60-hour work week. And I want some flexibility. And I'm spoiled. I have the ability to do that. But I would perhaps counter that with, I busted my ass for 40 years and I've been smart about saving my money. So I think I'm in a good position to be able to pick and choose a little bit. And so pretty clear on what I don't want to do. I'm just not 100% down the road about what I will do.
Yeah, I think you make really good points in there too. One of them is around grieving what was, because we talk about grieving when it relates to death, and we really don't talk
Yeah.
about grieving in too many other applications. But this is one where it's extremely powerful. You do need to grieve what was. That was your old life. That was a chapter of you, a version of you that is now no longer. And it must be really difficult, because our brains become addicted to that chaos and to that adrenaline shove, right? That gets us through the day. And now you have space, and it's like, you got to fill that space with something. What's that going to look like? And then to your point about, yes, you said spoiled, and I wanted to challenge you as soon as you said it, because you've worked hard, and this is what women do. We put ourselves kind of like in that small place. I'm spoiled, I worked hard to create the environment where I can be in this privileged position. It is a privileged position, but you've worked hard to create that for yourself, and I commend you and I congratulate you on doing that, because that is also as challenging as climbing the corporate ladder. Making sure you've got something to go to afterwards is as important. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was that, and I've forgotten now what the third point was. It doesn't matter, it'll come up again. But you're describing so beautifully a very common scenario that unfolds for women when their children grow up and leave home, when their career is so-called finished, where they develop themselves as a career person. But it definitely does not mean we're finished. And it's that combination of empty nest, quote unquote, with the finishing of the full-time work. But now, if we looked at it as sort of like personal freedom as opposed to retirement, I have personal freedom now to do what I choose to do. My time is mine. And we know too that as we get to a certain point in life, there's less runway ahead than behind. So we want to make sure we're maximizing our experience. And I admire you for doing this travel thing. So I'm going to suggest that may be some of the tools you're using to navigate through this third chapter as you go. Now, we don't know how it's going to unfold. I know what I was going to mention: clarity about what we want. This is a key part of reducing anxiety around not knowing. When we don't know what we want, we feel anxious about finding the answers. And especially for women in leadership, we want to know what's coming. We want to know what's going on. But it is in that mystery that lives the wisdom. And so it's important that we go through I don't know what it's going to be or where I'm going or what I'm doing right now, to get to the clarity. And often when I'm teaching people around, and I do it in my retreat, teaching people from what they don't want to what they do want, we focus on feeling. I don't want to feel untethered. So what do you want to feel? I want to feel connected. But then how can you take steps to feel more connected? Those types of things are really good exercises to kind of calm the unknowing part of us, which likes the answers.
Yeah, and if I can just comment on that unknown, you have to find a way to be uncomfortable, like be comfortable in that unknown, because I guess two things. And even I'm going to say a lot of men that I've talked to, they have come out of work, felt really lost, and then gone right back into work because they can't handle that stress of being in this uncomfortable position. And I think for women, sometimes it might even be worse, because I'm going to say for some women, yes, and for some women, no. I think it depends on how much you have allowed your career to define you. So when you step out of a career that has really been all-consuming, we're not used to being in this lack of control, ambiguity. I don't know what I'm doing. We're not comfortable in that zone. And I would caution anyone to jump immediately into something else. So, I love how sometimes teachers step into supply teaching and they ease their way out of a career. Or people who have great hobbies and, business ideas, ease their way out of and into. But when you don't have that, you jump into the abyss. And it's so easy to make a snap decision and enroll in a bunch of things. And in talking to people, and I tried kind of retiring about 5 or 6 years ago. I learned a lot then that I'm trying to employ this time. But, I think when you step into this, you have to find some rituals or things that help you get through those early days. And you have to accept that it is a roller coaster. There are days I wonder why the heck I left my job. There are days I'm bored to tears, days I'm lonely, and days I can't believe I'll ever do anything else because I'm so freaking busy. So, you have to be willing to run the roller coaster, because you lose control of that 9 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever kind of life you had in the past. You're really out in the open in a bit of an abyss.
And the lesson here is not to let what we do for a living define who we are as people. I mean, that's an ongoing uncovering, right? You mentioned rituals to help navigate. What are some of yours?
So I have I know you're going to say to me, it's not goofy, don't be embarrassed. I have a TikTok channel and an Instagram channel, and they are the same. And every day, except weekends, I post something by 10 o'clock in the morning. It is my commitment to myself. It is a daily vlog. I don't have a lot of followers. I don't care. I'm not chasing the followers, but it is me making a commitment that by 10 o'clock in the morning, every day, I will have got out of bed, involved some sort of creative process to think about either what I did the day before, what's on my mind. And it is everything from the seriousness of, do you have an estate? Do you have a will? I'm going through parental loss. What are you doing? To the goofiness of, hey, when you live in the near north, what's your outfit for the day look like? And your accoutrement bag is a Home Depot bag. I mean, it's the ridiculous to the serious. But it's given me a sense of purpose and a way for me to maybe dialogue this year, so that at the end of this year, I can look back and say, where did I find joy? What was the creative process like for me? What did I find interesting? What were the really bad days, and how do I stop those from occurring again? And what was top of mind for me? So it is a ritual that has just given me something to do. Other times I've worked on things like having articles that I have lined up that I want to have read, but I commit to being up and having something fundamental done by noon or by 10. I have more exercise in my life. And before I left my job, I started a long list of all the things I wanted to do. And frankly, a lot of them are chores. We're not talking bucket list stuff. We're talking things that I haven't done for 25 years that just needed to pay attention to, the things that needed fixing, and the garden I want to put in. And, so some of it's fun, some of it are just chores. But I'm pretty sure by the end of this year, I won't need that. But I needed something I could go to kind of go, okay, I'm not going to spend the day sitting around feeling bored and lonely. What else do I need to address? What are some other things I need to tackle today? And probably most importantly, connecting with people I haven't had the time for.
Yeah.
And that's been amazing and, beautiful. I'm connecting with people I went to high school with that, I've kept loosely in touch with, that I haven't been able to see because our lives have been busy, and now our children are grown and I have a lot more flexibility. So for the most part, it's been a really, really good process.
What you've described there in some way is purpose. Having your Instagram and TikTok channels is a purpose. And people are asking, what is the address? It's Anne's Adult Gap Year, at Anne's Adult Gap Year on TikTok and on Instagram. And it's wonderful. It's your diary. It's your journey. It's the exploration. And it makes all of us, when we see other people doing courageous things, it makes all of us feel a little bit more validated, that we're a little bit lost in the woods too, all of us. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has it all together. So the more we stand in the truth of that and say, I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but I'm doing this to try to find my way. And plus, when you do a ritual like that every day, and you never know where it will lead, you just never know. But if you never did it, you'd never find out. So I think that's fantastic.
It's for those who don't follow, today's was that yesterday I spent half the afternoon lying on the couch trying to read, and slept because we had massive thunderstorms, and I don't think I've had a nap in, I don't know, probably 20 years. But today I'm digging out a septic bed. So there you go.
There you go.
This is called authentic not working. This is not TikTok glam.
Yeah. Well, it's TikTok reality, and I'm all for that. I'm all for just keeping it real and learning from one another. This is the thing about sharing these stories on the third chapter, is we're all learning a little bit from one another about how we can try different things and do different things. And there is that chapter, and I'm kind of in the same thing at our house too. We had our generator installed yesterday. We're having work done outside. It's just that time of year, I guess, for all of us to do some repair and before we thoroughly enjoy the rest of this beautiful summer. So those are a couple of rituals. You said more exercise in your life? Yeah.
Yes. I do quite a lot of hiking anyway, but we're getting to that. I'm active anyway, but we're getting to that age where I really need to pay more attention to, stretching and yoga and things like that if I'm going to sleep well.
Yeah.
I'm playing around with meditation also. This is something, I'm not going to say it's a daily practice. I have a dear friend who runs a free meditation session every Thursday morning, which I hit. I tend to meditate at night, which is usually more about calming my brain so I can get to sleep. Yeah, but I have a lot more time to be active, and I am aware that I have more, I'm very fortunate. I'm in good health, but I do have more aches and pains, so I need to pay attention to this. And I think if I'd sat at my desk another 5 years, I would have even worse aches and pains. So I'm grateful to have the time and space to kind of get things moving.
Yeah, I like to say I require a little more maintenance now. And that's all
It's
good.
true.
It's all fine. Yeah, because we're worth it. We're worth taking care of. So I think that's fantastic. Good for you. And what about in the process of exploring your third chapter in this adult gap year, and what are some of the lessons you're uncovering and some of the gifts that you're receiving?
Um, Again, I'm going to go back a little bit. I listened to a podcast that just by chance had Jane Fonda in it. And, much like your third chapter, Jane Fonda was 59 and deciding that acting was starting to slow down. And she wanted to know what she was going to do for her third act. And of course, she pursued activism. But, my mom passed before the holidays or before Christmas at the age of 93. And
Wow.
so the podcast and my mother, who as of last fall was starting to ail a bit, I thought, what if I live to 93? What if I have another 30 good years? And my mom was in, relatively good shape. So what if I have another 30 years ahead of me? And when I look back and I think, what did I do with my life from 30 to 60? I think, wow, if I have that kind of fullness in my life now at a much lower speed and, less output, but if I have that abundance of 30 years, what do I want to do with it? So as I look at this time period going ahead for me, these are some of the things that I'm trying to explore. So I'm thinking about things like, how do we help women transition from these midlife ages of adulthood and parenting and just, go into a life that has some sort of purpose. So I'm looking for little gems as I go along. So, maybe some of my personal learnings have been, again, it takes a good 3 months for me, at least, to decompress from the work and the life that I was living before. I'm a widow. I do have a partner. I have 3 children. I probably should have given a bit of information on myself. I have 3 children between the ages of 21 and 30. I also have a partner who has 2 children in that same age group. So we are a family of 7, and then we add and add and add on to it. And I'm really enjoying my time with them and really having the chance to sit down and talk and listen. So I think that, just that space, and maybe not realizing what speed you were going through and how you were speeding even through conversations, having that space. I'm spending more time, as I said, my mom passed, so managing estates have really made me, and moving into retirement, if I get there, are you really, I think for women, and I have posted on this a couple of times, are we really in control of our financial and administrative lives, if I could put it that way? As a widow, I know how brutal, or you could be divorced, or you could be suddenly single for whatever reason. I know how absolutely brutal it is if you don't know how to pay a hydro bill because you've never done it.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to do your taxes or what's even involved, because that's just not that's not on your list of the responsibility. So I feel passionately about these areas and making sure that women are informed in the basics. You don't need to have an MBA in finance, but do you have the basics to make sure that as you move into these older ages, you're prepared, because shit happens, right? And you want to be on the right side of that if something goes sideways. So, these are the early lessons, I would say. Do I have my life kind of in order? I want to live 30 years, but I want to make sure that my children are in good shape. I'm making more time for my children. I'm doing more reading. I'm thinking about, as I said, what lessons I'm learning that might be of value to pass on. And the other area I would say changes substantially is your relationships. And I know you've talked about this a bit, Kathie, as well. And somebody said to me, well, I was with my husband all through COVID, we'll be fine. And my response is, when you're both working or one of you is working, that's a different relationship. You're separated for the end of the day. Even if you work together, you still have distinct functions within your day. But when you're both not working and you're both home and your children are no longer there as distractions, it puts different pressures on your relationship. Some great, but I'm going to tell you from my experience, there's some negotiating that has to happen. It's a whole new landscape. So I think there are quite a few things. We've talked about health, we've talked about money, we've talked about relationships, we can talk about sex and other things as well. But there's a whole gamut of things that I think start to change as you hit 55 that just go from there. Yeah. So I think there's lots to talk about.
Yes, and it is about women living fully. So whatever that means for you, but having the basics covered, I love that you brought that up. And, this is something I feel is very important. And I don't know about your journey with that. I know that being left a widow, that makes it really challenging and kind of an emergency situation and under a lot of pressure. But I have this thing called the Life Locker. It's actually a physical book I keep in a fireproof bag. And I had to corral my husband to get the information that we needed from each other, so that if something suddenly happened to me, he knew where my stuff was. I would know where his stuff was. We put it all in this book. And now my next thing is, which bills do you pay? Which ones do I pay? How much is, and we're going to get all of that sorted out, because these are the things that we sort of gloss over in life because we think we have bigger priorities. Right. But when the rubber hits the road, if anything happens, that's going to be your only priority, is making sure. So you can protect yourself and your loved ones by making sure you're prepared and you're what I like to say is, I'm adulting. I'm doing adulty things, It's kind of fun to do fun things, but having your T's crossed and I's dotted is invaluable. It makes life so much easier. And it is actually an expression of love. And it's an expression of kindness toward people you care about when you take care of your business. So I think that's great. And, you talked about having more time for your children and stepchildren and with your partner. And of course, the situation changes when you're both at home, but it also provides an element of purpose that you didn't have before, because it was a priority, but you had to get up and get going and you had to keep moving and do your job. So now it brings it back into a different focus, and it gives you a different purpose within that context, which I think is so beautiful, because we don't know how much time we have to spend with the people we love. So we want to make sure that we're doing what we want to do with them to make sure they know we care about them and that we have that beautiful connection with our family. And that's, go ahead.
Sorry, Kathie. I was just going to say, this is not my situation, so don't read into it, but also not to be hijacked by your partner in this space, because this is a space for you to, to explore, to take up hobbies, or, take up pickleball, go golfing, take up writing, go to a seminar, go to a course. And I have, friends who are just, they've become the entertainment coordinator for their partners. And I'm not sure that they are quite living their life. And I think they'll work it out. But I guess I'm just saying this is part of the journey and negotiation. And I think we as women have to be clear on what we want as well, so that, we are not losing out on our opportunities for joy, learning, education, satisfaction, whatever it is that you're chasing.
Yeah, it's a good point. If you don't know where you're going, and any road will take you there, And often people don't know what they want, and they don't feel they have the juice to actually invest in that exploration. They'd rather just do what's in front of them and easy breezy and coast through. And that, I know, judge a pas, but I'm the explorer, I'm the adventurer. I want to go into the mystery. I'm all about it. And so I'm with you on just, let's see what happens, see where this goes. But I will say that one of the key things for me in this third chapter is making sure the people you surround yourself with, to your point, are there for you in the best possible way, cheering you on, challenging you even, to make sure that you're doing what it is that's best for you. And if people are gaslighting you, or they're bringing you down, or you even think that they're toxic, you need to think about whether they should be in your inner circle or not. I'm all about editing the friends list on the ongoing, making sure that, you know, it's working for you, because as we grow as people, things can shift, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to stay with people because you've known them since grade school. Although rejoining with them at this point can be fantastic, which is great. Yeah.
It's true. I saw a name pop up. I saw a name pop up of a very dear childhood friend, and it is so nice to be able to reconnect. But these are people who have, you know, always held deep kind of meaning in your life. I agree with you. I have, I don't have, you know, you don't need to have a ton of friends. You just need to have a few people. And you hear more and more about kind of this loneliness endemic. And as people get older, you know, as I look at my mom and people her age, they're very lonely.
Yep.
You know, so what connections can we make while we're still in those active years and out and about that are going to have some meaning for us? And I love the fact that I have friends who are older, and I have lots of friends who are younger, and that diversity of thinking. And I love having, you know, 21, 25, 30-year-old kids that challenge me and challenge my way of thinking, and trying to just stay open to that. And, you know, be aware of what kind of is going on through the different generations. So I don't know, it's a fascinating, it's a wonderful time. And you know, it's a wonderful time. My husband passed at 47, and I say to my kids all the time, you know, we have to live a life for us and a life for him. So let's pack it full of good people and good things.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of gratitude from that.
Yeah, I can tell. And you've created your full life. You're living fully. Now, this thing about the loneliness epidemic, which I understand, I write about it. I work with people 55 plus for the Wellings across the country, and we're always trying to help people understand the key to longevity is warm connection with other people. It's about what you eat and how you move, but the most important thing research has shown is what contributes to our longevity is the connection we have with other people. So people too often, you know, especially when they finish working, and maybe that was their friend circle at work, when they stop working and they don't have that interaction that's put on their doorstep, they don't know how to navigate it, so they don't. And they become isolated, and this is not good for our mental health. So we have to remember, if we want to feel good, if we want to feel happy, if we want to feel like life is full, we have to make the effort. Teresa Grandmaitre is one of those people. She's joined us. Teresa is one of those people, very outgoing. She's got that sparky spark. You know, everybody's drawn to that sparky spark. And she has lots of people in her community who love her and keep her uplifted. And I feel, you know, I don't have a ton of friends anymore, but I have enough. And I have good friends who want the best for me, Anne, and who actually ask me how I'm doing and listen to the answer. And that's really all we can ask, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what is I won't get the saying right, but you only need, you know, one good friend, and you can make it grow from there. But it is important, and it takes effort, right? It takes effort. You have to really nurture and invest in these relationships. It takes effort. You don't need a lot of them, but I think all of us need to know that there is at least that one person we can call then when we need a little lift up, or we need a conversation.
Yeah. And I like to say, when I think of my friends, I want to feel really good. I don't want to feel dread. I don't want to feel, any of that. We're done with that. Now we want to feel like, you know, we want to maximize this experience. So edit out the people who may feel toxic, who aren't aligned with you anymore.
Right.
Don't feel badly about it. Do it with love, do it with compassion, but do it because you're worth it. You're deserving of every joy and happiness. This is what we're meant to find. And our third chapter, when we work this way and through the things you've been describing, the things that I talk about, when we do look at it with a lens on the good and the possible, we really do live fully. And it is possibly the best chapter of our lives. So it's very exciting. Anyway, before we close, anything you'd like to say? Any more gifts you want to share?
No, not really. I will say I feel like although I sound like I planned my way into this, I feel like I was somewhat unprepared because it is a big abyss. So if you're coming into these retirement years, I like to think of myself as in transition. I'm currently not working for a corporation. I suspect I'll work, probably not for pay, mind you, but I will return to something. But just be kind to yourself. You know, it's not easy to make these transitions. It's not easy for most of us to make any changes. Mm-hmm. And it is a roller coaster. You're going to go up and down. You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. But be confident in the decision that you made. Be confident that you will find a purpose. And even if your purpose is just to learn, you read every day, whatever it is. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this one big thing. And for me personally, I don't think I'm going to find a purpose. I think I'm going to have multiple because that's just kind of the way I roll. I'm a bit more chaotic than that. So my only comment would be kind, keep searching, keep reaching to other people, but be kind to yourself.
Give yourself some grace. And I always say too, if you feel a bit lost, find a coach, find somebody you can connect with, who you can talk to, or a trusted advisor of some kind. Just tell your truth. Now, somebody had a great question. How do you edit the friends out when they're in the same circles? It's a great question, because if you don't want to change your social circle, but you've moved beyond one of the connections in that circle, I just wouldn't give it any gas. I just wouldn't no longer give that situation any gas. If you want to stay within the circle and still socialize, do that, but just make yourself not as available as you were in the past, and that person will just move on to somebody else. The thing will just sort of dissipate. Naturally, it should. And if it doesn't, well, then you've got to rethink the circle. I think you got to rethink the circle.
And I would add to that, if that person comes and asks if you're avoiding them or why it feels like you're not part of it, you have a decision to make. You can choose to be authentic and just say, I find there's a lot of drama in this. This isn't what I'm looking for in my life. If we can have this kind of relationship, I'd love to carry on. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you when we're all together, but I'm going to kind of go my own route. But you can choose how honest and authentic you can be, and who knows, maybe that will bring that relationship back on track.
And that's a great piece of advice too. It's always delicate to know whether to bring it up or wait till the person asks.
For sure.
But be truthful, and always, as you said, be kind. Always be compassionate toward people. Everybody's dealing with what they're dealing with. Nobody has it all together. Nobody has it all figured out. And hopefully we're all growing, learning, and changing, and becoming even, more beautiful in this third chapter of our lives. And it's been a real pleasure talking with you. I encourage you to check out Anne's TikTok and Instagram, Anne's Adult Gap Year, and enjoy every second of everything. And I hope we'll chat again sometime.
I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the conversation, Kathie. I really enjoyed it. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Bye for now.
And we'll be back next Thursday at 2:00 for another episode of the third chapter. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.